Could you, Mike Andy, start a business and then just have AI run it?
Yeah, 100%.
What's up? How's your voice?
It's
Address the
repairing.
elephant.
You can hear me now. What's weird is when it drops out the occasional word.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, it feels like I'm always tickling my throat and I cough all the time.
Yeah. For those who maybe don't know, how did you lose your voice?
Conference, man. Let's go. Today's what, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Finished Saturday. So Sunday, Monday, repaired a voice. It was good.
Yeah.
So Sunday was brutal. My jaw hurt. It was really bad. But I'm good now.
Yeah. We'll just we'll start right there. Yeah. We had the Landscape Summit. So we do 1 day or half a day, most of a day with just the Augusta Nation franchisees. Yeah. And then we open it up to the public. So just initial reactions.
It was good, man. It was the best one we've done so far, and I think there's still room to get better. So looking forward to October when we're going to take it to Louisville next to Equip Expo. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. So a couple people did mention the pod to me at the at the summit. I was actually very surprised.
I got that plug in there, bro.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. I appreciate that. Someone actually, unfortunately, she's not here right now while we're recording, but someone referred to my wife as the producer.
Yeah, let's go. The producer isn't here today, you know?
Yeah, so, no, it was good. Landscape Summit was great. It's always good to see all the franchisees in one room. Kind of a little bit of a step back. I was talking to one of the newer franchisees, and they were like, I didn't realize like how big Augusta is. And we got, 80 locations represented, and then a lot of them brought a spouse, a manager. Some of them brought most of their team, and it's like, it's wild that it's over, like, what was it, 110 people that were attached to Augusta.
120, yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So next year we're going to Louisville, in 10 months.
Yeah, dude. October 16th and 17th.
16th, yeah.
16th and 17th, I think.
What was the thought process behind that? I mean, you can give the short version.
The short version, I was walking outside of Equip Expo when we were leaving. I was like, we should have a conference here. Yeah. And then I was like, looked over at Ryan, looked over at Liz, and I was like, why would we not have a conference here? Poke a hole in that one.
Yeah.
And the only good reason was that it's kind of fun to travel up to Washington for people down south. But it's expensive. It's less affordable, accessible. So I think it'll be a good move. And hopefully get more people to come because they're already making the trip to Louisville.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the arguments that I had, I guess, not against, but one of the holes I tried to poke, and in the chaos that is Equip Expo and the fact that we're just dead tired after those 3 days, one thing that I thought, and I didn't know if you've given it any further thought, was, are you ever going to differentiate, in a way, the Mike Andy's brand from the Augusta brand? Because my initial reaction when you said, let's do it at Equip, I was like, well, does that pigeonhole you now as the landscape guy? Or do you feel like you have to be, I guess, the landscape guy for the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, in order to just continue to grow the audience, and then you kind of...
Yeah, like the vast majority of my audience is still lawn care landscape people. It's about 50 to 60% though. There's a lot of people who aren't. Mm-hmm. I've done polls on it before and things. So I think down the road we'd probably have a conference for home services, and we might do that in Washington, and then keep the one for landscaping, that one separate, and ideally next to Equip Expo all the time because that's where all the landscapers are. Yeah, and then that way too, our franchisees, they can kill two birds with one stone. They come to Equip, they come to our conference as well, plus the summit that they able to get publicly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting, I guess, because I have the outside perspective of like watching you as the entrepreneur and just being an operator underneath you and thinking about, well, these guys who were entrepreneurs and they grew an audience, but then they, I guess, take their talents in different directions. It's like interesting watching you kind of go through that and just see where it's going to go.
Yeah,
like I'm just interested.
Yeah, like I think there's still a lot in lawn care landscaping. They don't know who I am, and then just like the services and products we build are mostly for the lawn care industry. However, like with Co-Pilot, home service CPA, those are more home service generalized. And so that's kind of putting our foot in that kind of end of the pool. And it's a much wider, larger net and audience, honestly. So it definitely allows us to scale. And, I think in 10 years, the majority of my audience won't be in lawn care landscaping. Yeah. In terms of the public brand, just because the audience is so much bigger. Right. Lawn care is one vertical. You could look at fencing, and you could look at cleaning, and like there's just as many people in those verticals. And so when you do home services, you literally get 10, 20x the amount of people that are able to be reached.
Yeah, and I think like obviously a big example of someone that's done that is like Alex Hormozy. I know we talked about him on the pod previously, but he started Gym Lords, he started franchising, and now you go to his YouTube channel and he's just like the business philosophy guru, right? So I think I'm excited to see you go through that because I get to see that, and that's kind of an element of this podcast is showing that other side of you. But I'm just excited for when you diversify the Mike Andes brand a little bit more. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, like I've said it before, like in terms of the media side, our goal is to kind of become the Dave Ramsey for small business down the road. The way that people would say, oh, you need a budget. Oh, you should go listen to Dave Ramsey. I would like it to be when people are like, I'm going to start a business. Like, oh, like, you should make sure you check out Mike Andes and listen to stuff. So that's down the road, though. I'm not in a big rush. I think building a really big business and controlling the vertical of lawn care and landscaping will set me up for a good platform because so many of the things, like you could take every single thing almost from the conference keynote and basically make that a business conference.
Definitely.
Just about every industry.
Definitely.
You take out the word lawn care, switch out for any other service. You take out the word projects and recurring revenue, and like it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just the way you brand it. It's what's important.
Especially when you get big picture in the home service industry with like sales. Pretty similar sales
same
tactics.
Stuff. Oh, it's all the
marketing.
Same stuff.
It's all the same.
Yeah. All the same.
So interesting. Do you think it'll be a choice that you make to like diversify your talent, or do you think it's just a natural progression for a content creator, entrepreneur?
It'll be natural because what will happen is the products and services we build for lawn care and landscaping would just need rebranded into becoming something for home services. Home service would just need rebranded in a small business. So in my opinion, like the next 10 years will be lawn care. 10 years after that, it'll be like home service. And then like the eve of my career, or like the highlight of my career, like 40s and 50s, I think that's when it'll be like small business owners will know who I am, hopefully, and I can help them, hopefully. So I'm not like in a rush for it, though. I think each stage needs to have a solid foundation to build on top of if it's going to be a longevity thing. And so, yeah.
I think it's cool. It's just like, I don't know, from, once again, the outsider looking in, it's like we just got to enjoy the ride a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because there's times where I'm like, man, I remember my first conference and it was like 60 people.
Yeah, you were sitting on the on your computer off to the left, right off the side of the pushing next.
Yeah.
On your laptop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll never forget. I ran the slides and the audio and everything off stage because our then media guy, Josh, shout out Josh, was doing everything in terms of trying to record it, trying to get good pictures, trying to just help you and I with whatever other tasks we need. And I actually remember on your first opening keynote, I screwed up a slide. I went ahead a little fast. You didn't like that. So it's all good. See where we've come.
Work with what we got, bro.
Yeah. So, dude, that's awesome. But yeah, it was a great event. For those of you who were there, I'm extremely thankful. I know Mike would say the same thing. And I'm also humbled by like the kind words people say, not only about you, but just about the team that you've built and that I get to be a part of. I think one of the biggest things is we're just there to work and we care. And you message a team that it's like, we're bought into the vision and we care about the people in the room. So we just get it done, right? There was no drama amongst our team, the team that put on the event. So like shout out the media staff, the folks from Command Center that helped out. Like there was not one moment where we were stressed, but there was not one moment where we weren't on the same page or we weren't trying to help each other. And I think that's just like cool to be a part of.
Yeah, I'd say we probably at least tripled or 5x the amount of preparation on this conference compared to last year.
Yeah.
And this coming one will be probably the same 3 to 5x of what we did this year. But I think it was apparent, like everything from walkie-talkies in all of our ears, like the amount of communication, everything goes smoothly. We had a lot of timing involved. Like we had to time down to the second when we launched Co-Pilot, when we launched the announcements. It was all timed down a second. So everything had to go flawlessly. And so, I think people, if they look in hindsight, look at some of the things we did, like me having my ear plug in or my headset in for the last keynote, like all these little things that we did. Added to it, and then we just hopefully learn from all the stuff we can do better on, and we'll make it even that much better in October.
Yeah. Well, you did mention Co-Pilot, so that's what I want to honestly invest most of our time into. Cool. So you're a SaaS guy. Is that how you say it? Is that how you pronounce it?
SaaS.
SaaS.
Software as a service.
Software as a service. Very diversified in terms of your business portfolio. So you're in
I don't know, dude. I think a lot of people are going to say that. It's not diversified. It's like I live and breathe SaaS already.
Yeah.
Because we are dealing with it every single day at Command Center. I understand the back end pretty well. And like I mentioned at conference, like I do know a little bit of tech. So like it's it's not new or like different for me. Like I feel very comfortable with talking to developers and kind of being in the know on that stuff. So but it's just like, how do we take this technology and make it really useful for not just landscapers, but all home service business owners, and give them the information they need. And I feel like I'm in a good spot to know what that is. And there's so many there's a gazillion different ways you can take a software, and there's a bazillion different features that are still to this day pitched to me.
Yeah.
I've literally got over 150 emails still about feature requests just from my post the last few days. Maybe that was 150 total, so probably about 100 of feature requests.
If anyone's listening that send an email, will those get read
Yeah.
eventually?
Yeah, they will be. I'll read every single one.
Yeah.
I won't reply to them all, but I'll read them. And so you can take it so many different directions. You have to have a clear vision of what you want the software to be. Otherwise, it just becomes a scattered mess and a whole bunch of different things. It needs to be a very clear, unified vision. I feel like that's what's lacking in the industry is no one is like, this is what we're building. Get on board, or get on board, or just bail. Go. We don't care. Just leave. And so, I just gotta like stay focused on what that vision is, because it's so easy to be like, oh, we'll add this feature like this and this, and all of a sudden you have something that does everything, but therefore it does nothing.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, last Friday we had the summit. We had it timed perfectly. I think Steven,
7 seconds, dude.
our media guy, we timed a live announcement with our conference, and it launched within 7 seconds, which is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, we had the timer up months before, and within 7 seconds we had it nailed to the second.
That's awesome in and of itself. Should be celebrated. Shout out the media guys and the team that got the conference to run so smoothly. But to bring in the larger audience, if you will. So Friday night of our conference, you had a big announcement. The internal team, we knew what that announcement was. The announcement was Co-Pilot, which is going to be a CRM, home service CRM that you launched. So I almost want to rewind a little bit and kind of go through the decision-making process, how we got to where we are, and then we can dive more into the weeds. But I remember when I was first hired at Augusta, it was right when we had switched to our current CRM, which is Service Autopilot. And I remember it was very chaotic. I had no idea what was going on, right? I had retail experience, and I've used POS systems, and I've done basic CRM stuff, but I'd never been involved in a company that used it on a day-to-day basis. And so I get hired at Augusta, and you and Liz are like scrambling, figuring out how do we use the Service Autopilot thing, and then it's been my life for the last, over 5 years. So what, I guess, summarizing the last 5 years, been using Service Autopilot, what would you say would be maybe some major road marks that got you to where we are now? And
well, the first thing is that the way that the app looked 5 years ago, when you looked at it the exact same way it looks today.
Yes.
There has been no change or innovation. And the reason for that is because the founders left. There's no leadership, in my opinion. When I say no leadership, there's people in leadership, but that doesn't mean a company has leadership. And so there's no vision, there's no unifying theme. I've talked to the leadership team. I said, like, no one knows why this company exists anymore. They're like, why do we exist? And they couldn't give me an answer. And so I think that that's a reason, why we're here now competing against them eventually. And then just there's just so many little features that they could have done over the past 5 years that were simple. Like, if I know now from a tech point of view, like these are features that are 2 and 3 weeks of development, and you can knock them out.
Yep.
Tipping, the ability to be able to do multi-select on dispatch boards, the fact that there's 10 ways to do every single one thing inside the software, the fact that you literally need to hire a coach or hire Service Autopilot to train you how to use their system, and not just train you, but like create your templates and your documents and your automations. It's that complicated. So I think it's really bad user experience, really bad UI, a jumbled mess with their versions. 5 years ago, they were launching V3. It's still in beta, weirdly. Like, some pages work, some pages don't. The team app is there. Some people use it, some people don't. The legacy app is there. It's just a mess. And so I'm not pulling punches on that. And I'm also at the same point we're using them. And I'm in very open and honest with them about what we're doing and where I stand on things. And I gave my opinions very straight to them over the past year.
Yeah. So do you think the transition, let's just talk about even before Co-Pilot, right? You obviously saw some struggles, the things that you just mentioned with Service Autopilot. I can attest, when I was first onboarded, you guys showed me how to run through Service Autopilot. it is the same onboarding process for a new employee today at Augusta. It's the exact same verbiage. It's the exact same click here, do this, do that. When you need to debug, because you're going to have to do that a lot.
Triple tap on the top.
Triple tap on the top, right? The same spiel 5 years later. So that is, I guess, outsider looking in, it's concerning, right, to see that. So for you, was it an instant, I have to make my own, or did you shop around? When did you realize I'm going to start my own CRM, or was that even a thought until you just like had to?
Well, part of it is like we at Augusta, like we are a big client to any CRM software, big, like very large, if not the largest. And so, because we're bringing hundreds of accounts, each of those have multiple users, so it's a huge account for them. And so now we've just gotten to size where they actually will listen to us. But the other things that got me is like we're using other CRMs alternatively at Command Center, and we still use them to this day. But they are venture capital backed, so they weren't profitable. So I was able to see both ends of the software spectrum. One company, ServiceAlpha, extremely profitable, makes lots of money, and what they're doing with their rate of innovation. And then I'm able to see in other companies that we've been working with that are venture capital backed by the likes of Sequoia Capital, et cetera, and they are burning money. Because they're younger, they're smaller, they're more agile, they're able to be a little more innovative. However, now with the recession, they have to stop. They have to like figure out profitability and cut things out. And so on both ends of the spectrum, I've seen just like no innovation. And over the past 12 to 24 months, there's like nothing new. There's nothing groundbreaking. After automations, ServiceAlpha and a lot of the other, like there's just nothing new that is actually revolutionary. It's just Me Too products, Me Too features. And I'm very clear with the co-founder and CTO of Co-Pilot, which is Patrick Cash, has said, we are not going to create this race of arms of features, because you can literally die by 1,000 cuts of features, like this feature and this feature. There's always going to be other features to add, but there's no, one feature is not going to make your product. One feature is not going to like make or break whether or not you're innovative. It's not like that. And so I think like a lot of these companies that are making a lot of features are simply on this rabbit, like this treadmill of like feature, this feature, and then, this and this. Like there's no vision of like, what are we actually trying to build here? What makes us different than every other CRM out there? And what I promised, we will not become a Me Too CRM. It's going to take us a year to catch up, because there are several features we need to build to be able to have enterprise levels companies on the software. But beyond that, that's like, where is this company going? Like in 3 years, we will not look like any other CRM. I can guarantee you that. And in 5 years from now, it'll look totally different than it is from 3. Like it'll be a lot of changes. And so, yeah.
My thought while you were on that beautiful soliloquy was honestly to really dumb down, I guess, what you said. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like my reaction is CRMs have tried to become the jack of all trades and the master of none. Do you feel like you're going to try to be the master of home service-based businesses because you're not just trying to be the, what was it, Me Too? Or
yeah, like the Me Too thing is like the feature thing, right? So like, they have this feature, okay, well, we have this feature. Right. They have this automation package, well, this automation. Like there's a bunch of that stuff, right? The thing is, like, what were you saying? Because I was thinking a thought.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, that was it. So originally, and this is actually a fine line. So what I think ServiceTitan did really well is they did industry by industry by industry. And by doing that, they made sure that they tailored their product to each industry one at a time. Then you have like something like ServiceAlpha. I feel like they have to dilute their product down because they're trying to serve every single industry with the same software. And so you have to kind of dilute things down. However, like, I think it just takes a business owner that's in the service businesses and has a wide range of interest in all these different industries to realize that there's still a lot of commonalities. We still need to know our close ratio. We still need to track time to close. We still need to track attrition. And like to this date, it's not a simple process to get attrition from Service Autopilot.
No. When
for any recurring based business, it's extremely important. The lifetime value of a customer, they do a pretty good job of that. They actually have a graph. It's pretty straightforward. But there's just so much that is not done well, even when, like Co-Pilot, we are doing multiple industries. Any home service industry can use it. It's not just for lawn care and landscaping. However, there are just so many things that can be added that I feel like it just takes someone who's like been in it, knows what they need. And I've been able to see all of our franchisees in lawn care and landscaping, but then also just like other home and services and be like, I know this same KPI is important in roofing and fencing and cleaning and every other thing, right? So, yeah.
So was there, because I feel like I want to know this, was there a decision moment or an aha moment, or was it just like for you as a user, death by 1,000 cuts?
Yeah, so I was going to send a video to Service Autopilot, basically not threatening them. I was going to say like, hey, look, I'm going to post this video publicly. What are your thoughts?
Yep.
And so I've sent to our franchise advisory council as kind of a screening mechanism. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. After like, plenty of back and forth deliberation. Yes, we should. No, we shouldn't. Why? What's the point and objective of this? Would they cut us off? That sort of thing. And then I ran it by people that have been at Service Autopilot before. And basically I realized that like that video wasn't going to get the intent that which was to actually make change happen. It was probably just going to frustrate people and make them mad. And I knew that wasn't the goal. Like I wanted to help them. So like ultimately my original thought was like, I'll become the CEO of Service Autopilot. Yeah. That's not a job I want because the CEO is not a founder-led company in that position.
Right.
So once that was kind of like, I never sent the video to their executive team, but I talked to them and I said my piece and I said where I thought there was failings and where there could be improvements, et cetera. And they're starting to implement some of those things. Fortunately, that's really good. I'm happy. Like I really want their software to do well. I want their users to be taken care of. I want to see them ultimately help the industry. But then when I step back, I'm like, okay, what's right for Augusta in the next 5 years? Do we stay with a legacy company that does a good job, we're all pretty happy with, but I feel like it's starting to fall behind in innovation compared to 3 years ago? Or do we put the eggs in the basket of another software that is more innovative, getting things done, but like has bugs in it that is like really frustrating our franchisees, and I have no control to fix them? Like I can't just dump money on it and fix the problem with development. I can't. Like, I don't control it. And so ultimately stepping back, I was like, okay, well, what could I do? I've always known Patrick really well. I flew out to his house, stayed at his house before, tried to help him when Lawn Pro was kind of on the rocks a little bit. And so I reached out to him, just told him like, hey, like, here's what I think a CRM should look like. No one else is doing this. And I think you and I together are a whole lot more valuable than you and I apart. I said, I can bring the business, industry experience, sales, and marketing. You can bring the tech and years of experience of coding that he has and the development team that they have. And so I think together it's just going to be something really, really cool.
Yeah. So Patrick is...
But the moment.
That's it.
Yeah, the moment was when he agreed to let me have control of the company.
Okay.
And so I told him right up front, I said, look, I want to do this. We both agreed that we were better together.
Yeah.
And we'd make something 10 times better if we just joined forces. Instead of me trying to code it myself or him still trying to do Lawn Pro. Because he is pigeonholed by industry and he doesn't have the social presence or industry experience to help bring it to the masses. So the moment though for me was when we both agreed on that part. Dan was like, okay, well, how are we going to split up the company? And I told him, I was just really honest. I'm like, look, it's not that I don't trust you, but there's no way I'll do a CRM if I don't have full controls and I need majority ownership. And so I put an offer that I literally was like, I know what this can become, but I have to have control if it's going to be in the best interest of Augusta and for the industry, and that's the only thing I care about. If I get 50-50 or I take 49, then we're in a position where I could be right back in the square one in a few years. If he wants to sell or if venture comes in and says, I need control of the company. So when he without any objection said, yeah, I'd be on board for that. I think 40% of a big pie is a lot bigger than the slice I've got now. And I was a game for that. And then that was the moment. It's like, we're all in, we're going 100%. Because we'd already talked about, like, I really was very strong on what I believed a CRM needs to look like. I told him very clearly what I thought the current Lawn Pro does not have, what Co-Pilot would be in terms of, like, it needs to serve the enterprise level user, not the entry level user. And we kind of got aligned on those things. And he's very good at just letting me do my thing in terms of vision, where are we going, what features are we working on. And he's great at the tech side. He has a great team that we work with. And so together, I think we'll make something cool.
So we announced on
Friday night.
January 8th?
6th, dude. The same day as the insurrection.
Okay, this guy.
Literally the day that the Capitol got stormed, we literally took over we're going to, one day down in history it'll come.
Yeah, fair enough. You and the people of Brazil, which is not a topic we're going to get into.
Not Brazil, the insurrection
yeah,
on
but
the
Brazil
White House.
also did it too.
Oh, the same day?
Yeah, last week.
I know, but it was the same day.
I
January
think so.
6th?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think
I
so.
knew they did it. I just didn't know if it was the same
Yeah,
day.
but we're not getting into that today.
Okay.
Okay, so January 6th, you announce your insurrection on the CRM software for home service businesses. When was that conversation with Patrick? How long ago was that?
That would have been like only 3 months ago.
That's what I was gonna guess.
Yeah, it's
Like
very
September,
short.
October.
Yeah, it's very short. Literally in about, I would say, so one weekend I called him.
Mm-hmm.
The next week we had legal papers. The week after that, I already bought the rights, like the URL.
Mm-hmm.
Got the branding literally before he signed. So like I was like, okay, we're doing this.
You're
Once
in.
we verbally had said it,
Yeah.
I was like, we're in. So I started running with it.
Yeah.
And then he signed, and then we got all the development team. That's the hard part, is getting the development teams on my side, more the UI, and then him on the UX,
Mm-hmm.
and then putting it all together. That's been the more challenging part. But he's excellent. He's very good at letting me do my thing as an operator, and I'm trying my best to make sure I just let him also run with the tech.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a good partnership.
Cool. So basically, all you need is 3 months to start a
Dude, it was
SaaS
2 weeks.
business.
If you actually think about it, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So
you just waited to launch.
Once I knew Service Autopilot, that was a closed door of me never taking any sort of leadership there.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I knew that he was game for something, and we just had to come down the details. There was a lot of messages, a lot of late nights. I was like figuring out. I had the entire feature list for the next 24 months,
Mm-hmm.
basically ready to go. Then I started developing a whole bunch of stuff on my end, and so yeah. I'd say 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks we went from I don't know what's going on with this stupid CRM world to we're gonna have a solution for this in a matter of a year.
Yeah. When was the first UI developed?
Not until like late November.
Okay.
That's when I put my designers on it. I told them what I wanted. They had already built P4P for me,
Mhm.
so I already knew kind of what their skill set was, and then they knew what I liked. So
Yeah.
it was great. We gave
Yeah.
them the branding, so we created the brand guide with the media team in terms of colors, fonts,
Mhm.
all that goodness. And I was like, okay, all right, you guys know what I liked in P4P. You guys built that for me. Now please do the same thing inside of Co-Pilot.
So Patrick Cash, founder of Lawn Pro, he's partnering up with you. This is not, and correct me if I'm wrong, a redesign of Lawn Pro. This is a separate product that you are launching that you are majority owner of.
Yeah, totally separate. When
Cool.
it comes out, people will know this. It doesn't look anything like Lawn Pro.
Okay.
The current feature set's pretty similar because we are taking that entire code base and then redoing it. But what's going to look, it's over the course of the next year, it's going to completely fork, right?
Mhm.
So we're forking the code sets.
Mhm.
So in terms of features like the cockpit, that's only in Co-Pilot.
Yep.
As we start building more and very customizable automations and all the features we're building, that's going to stay inside of Co-Pilot. There's just certain features that should not go in a smaller software. And that's the problem with so many of these softwares. They try to serve all users. We're not
Right.
trying to serve people that are doing $100,000, $200,000 in revenue. It's just not going to be good software. I will tell you, don't use it. If you want to get your business above 500 and beyond, 500,000 annual revenue, then it's probably a software you should tackle. And we're going to make it hopefully the depth and powerful features that Service Autopilot has, but with the UI of Jobber.
Mhm.
Very easy to interface that you can quickly learn, integrate with, and figure things out without having to have advisors.
So give me, let's see. I know this could get really long-winded, and I don't necessarily want it to. So maybe give me a brief description of some of the rollout features, like what the timeline is, maybe like what's going to be the best one in 6 months, the best one in 12 months, the best one in 24 months, and any other you want to sprinkle in there for a little extra flavor.
Yeah, the best one I'd say in this spring is going to be the cockpit and then 3D notifications. So that's data-driven decisions using AI from your KPIs to tell you what you should be doing in your business. So if your time to close is not good, we'll tell you the 3 things you need to do to improve that.
Mm-hmm.
If your close ratio is not good, we'll tell you why and again how you should fix that. If you're overworking your staff and your capacity for labor or asset capacity is off, we'll tell you, and we'll tell you what you should fix about that, and we'll tell you when your next project is available. So like the 3D notifications, I would say this spring using the KPI cockpit. And then the AI that tells you exactly what you should be doing based upon those KPIs, that'll be the coolest thing this spring. That's going to shock people. People will rip us off within a year because it's going to be that great. And then I'd say this summer is going to be the fact that we do need to catch up when it comes to automations. We have about 30 to 40 pre-built automations, which are fantastic, and I think would beat any other software when it comes to the pre-built side. Because like with Service Autopilot, for example, you don't get any pre-built. You literally have to pay for 10 or 15 of them, and they control them. And they're customizable, but you have no idea how to customize them. And you have to pay someone to do it for you. It's stupid. So the 30 to 40 that are in there now are great. I do need to add the layer of customizability where it's drag and drop and all the rest of it. We already have it based on tags. We already have a lot of that's a lot. Like there's almost no automation you can't already have in Service Autopilot, or that's in Service Autopilot can't be built in Co-Pilot. However, there needs to be where it's completely customizable. That's a big lift, very difficult technically. So we got to do that. Fall and winter, there's some really cool stuff that we're pulling from a whole bunch of different softwares that I've tried. Things I'm like, that's good. Oh, that's good. Like just a bunch of stuff like that that's going to look really, really cool. The thing that I'd say within a year that's going to be really cool is the ability to be able to sell someone without having to measure their property. So we will have all the data from lawn area and perimeter, driveway area and perimeter, roof area and perimeter, everything about the house, including a picture from the road and an aerial image. That is done immediately. There is no dragging and clicking or asking the client to move the pins around there's too much air there. You're asking your customer to literally measure their house, like their property. It's just not, it's not great. Not a great user experience. And so that will be all through AI. That's going to cost us about $10 to $12 million to develop. That specific thing. And so I'm really hoping that spring of 2024 we have that out. That will completely boggle people's brains how we're doing that, and no one will be able to rip us off for at least 2 or 3 years on that. And so that will make it very clear, like, hey, this we're not here to play games. And if I can pull it off by spring of 2024, we'll be like, it'll be huge. That's the goal. Like, but there's 25 other features that like this fall and winter we're trying to tackle. There's little things, little stuff like. It should be where you have a setting that you just check a box that someone can't accept the estimate without putting a card in file. Pretty basic stuff. It should be really simple. In your settings, you have a threshold of over a certain dollar amount that they have to pay if they accept a project before they accept the proposal. So when you get an accepted estimate, the deposit is already paid. There is no like, oh, we need a deposit and you got to wait for it and all that garbage. So lots of little stuff like that. Video compression is a big deal for me. Be able to attach videos to estimates, jobs, very much like company cam. There's some great features, but I'll make it all integrated. And a bunch of those little features like that I've seen that I'm like, that's good. And that I feel are the most important. There's a gazillion features, but these are the ones where I'm like, we need this in order to get to where we're trying to go. And some of it beyond next brand, I'm not going to talk about.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, you kind of already explained that. It's a lot to unpack, but let me just tee you up here with the perfect question if you're geared towards sales in any way, shape, or form. What's your competitive advantage?
Right now, it's only the fact that I'm leading, and it is only that there is a clear vision. I literally am sharing our project management development tool on our Facebook page. I'm literally showing exactly what we're working on, exactly what our progress is. I'll be open and transparent about where we're messing up, what our flaws are, and that there's a vision for this company. And then we know exactly why I exist. We know exactly where we're going. There is no question as to what we do and why we do it. That's the only thing right now. I'd say in 12 months, it's going to be very obvious from a software development standpoint. There's not a lot of competition, and they cannot rip off what we can do. And if they do, I'm fine with it because we'll be ahead of them significantly. And companies will start to realize that in order to be on the cutting edge in their local market, they have to use our software. And it'll take me at least a year or two to get there. But for now, I'd say our competitive advantage is simply the fact that you got someone at the top that has a very clear vision, very passionate about it. I'm not looking at what how much money we're making in terms of trying to go public. We're not trying to raise money from venture capital, so therefore we inflate a bunch of numbers and make nice slide decks. Could care less. I spent all of our time with development, exactly what the features of the owners need, and I'm very, very attuned to that, and I don't feel like most CEOs of these companies are.
Now, do you think that Co-Pilot, and this is obviously looking way down the road, would ever go the route of VC, PE, or go public?
I don't think so. I don't want it to. the more and more I've thought about, like, I just don't want anything Augusta really being sold. I want it all together. We're trying to vertically integrate this entire industry. So I want to control every single part of it. I want to open a bank for us as well, and get it FDIC insured, be able to do loans, be able to do credit card processing, do the whole 9 yards. Just vertically integrate every single aspect of a service business, where Augusta has a great advantage using that, but then people that don't want to be part of Augusta tap into that and basically rent out the features that we build in terms of that whole vertical integration. The same way that people, like sellers, use Amazon fulfillment to sell their products, and they're happy, but then Amazon's making money off that on each transaction. So I have no interest in selling. What throws a little bit of a monkey wrench with Co-Pilot is it's the first time I've ever given a piece of equity to anybody in my whole life. But I need Patrick, and he needs me, and I need him. Yeah. And so the only position is where he's older than me, so if he ever wanted out, but we have clauses in our agreement that allows me to buy him out at a discount, he allows, et cetera. Like, there's things in place for that. And by the time that it would happen, I would be able to afford it. So I'm not super concerned about that. My eventual goal is, like, you build this whole vertical integrated thing, and then you take that in the market, but then I have super voting power to be able to still control the company. If we do go public with the whole thing, like the whole thing has to go public, everything, the bank to everything with the home service CPA, the marketing side with web design and lawn care media, to the franchise side, to the CRM side, like all of that together is what, when you package it up together, kind of like Amazon does, and you take that to the market and say, hey, this is valuable. And then we take that cap. Yeah, we won't go past that part.
What's your what's your ticker symbol? If you had to pick one right now for yourself.
I was thinking Max, just because of Max, the mascot, but it's already been taken by Max Linear. I
just for fun.
Mike would be funny, but it's also, I don't want to, at that
bit.
point, you don't want to tie it into yourself. So we'll see. I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have two takeaways. One that I can remember, one that I'm blanking on. I got to talk to Patrick because I don't know how he got equity in one of your companies. I just feel like you and I have had conversations about me investing or me getting equity, and I respect your decision, and I totally understand where you're coming from with the complete control side. And I think and that's why I think I'm bought into you and your brand more, is because you control it. I trust you, so why wouldn't I put all my chips in this basket theoretically, right?
Yeah, like ultimately we could have built Co-Pilot ourselves. It would have taken me at least 2 years to just get to where we're at now. Like literally signing a paper, we saved 2 to 3 years and hundreds of thousands worth of development. Yeah. So what he brought to the table was so much more valuable than the 40%. And then what I brought to the table was so much more valuable than 60%. And so it was a match made in heaven. It was a deal of a lifetime. I've talked to other co-founders in the software development CRM world that have exited, and they said, like, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity and a once in a lifetime deal that you made. And so I really believe that it's a great thing for him, great thing for us, great thing for Augusta, and great thing for the industry. I think it's going to be really, really healthy to get someone like me in there and create a little bit of disruption and get some of these companies that are just stacking cash to start putting in some R&D, start focusing on support again, start focusing on what actually the users need, and stop pandering to Wall Street and what their VC capital firms want.
Yeah. I think I remember my second thing, which was, this is, I guess, I don't know if this is the first time you've said that you would have a bank, right? Yeah. I don't know if this is the first time you said it publicly, because you said it at the franchise conference, which is technically kind of a closed door event, if you will. But as soon as you said that, dude, I went in the YouTube rabbit hole of like private banks and VC and private equity and like all this stuff, and my head is spinning, dude. Yeah. It's a wild world.
Yep. No, that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
So that's
definitely.
That's why all the credit card processing companies have bought out these CRMs, and why there's no innovation is because they don't make their money on the front end. They make their money on the processing. So that's what they do is they come in and say, hey, you can now only use this one processor. They're funneling in, let's call it, $5 billion through this processor, and then taking a quarter point off the top. That's a really good business. And it's more sticky than even a software as a service company subscription is credit card processing, especially when you have a monopoly on who they can use. And so, that's where the money's at in this world. That's why a lot of these CRMs are owned by processing companies, and they don't know how to develop for small business owners. Right. They know how to do credit card processing. And so we're going to flip it, and that is we're going to be really good at doing the business side, giving those features, and then down the road I'll figure out the economics of trying to make the bank side. And then once I control the bank, dude, the fact of the matter is you now have I can control both ends of the transaction. So there's so much you can do in terms of same day funds, and there's crazy amount you can vertically integrate it. And then when I can control the front and back end of a transaction with a customer, there's so much right now that can be done, but it's not being done because it's owned by such massive companies that are just trying to extrapolate cash. And so I hope that I can break that, and then they have to all change. And they won't be happy about it, but it'll be better for the users. It'll be better for the business owners.
Yeah, you're like a anarchist monopoly man.
Well, it's not really a monopoly. It's only monopoly once you're tied into the software. But the problem with CRMs, they're so hard to get out of. Like once you're in a CRM, it's such a pain to move, and they make it hard, and it's just a pain in the neck to switch. So when a company says, okay, by the way, you can only process this one person, and you can't control the rates, and you can't compete against anyone else. There's no competition. It is a monopoly to the users of that platform because you don't want to leave, and that's why we've stayed with like companies, CRMs that haven't innovated and have done stupid stuff to us. Is because it's a pain to move. It's a real pain to move. So yeah, it's kind of a monopoly, I guess you could say.
Well, but the reason I put the title of anarchist, and not that you're like anti-government, but I think it's just more of a play on words to make a joke. But I think because what I've seen in your passion, you're like, if no one's doing it the right way, sometimes I feel like it's your cross to bear, and you're like, well, I have to do it the right way then. And you're doing it for the small business owner. You're doing it for the benefit of the little guy. And I think a lot of like worthy causes start that way, but I think you're not going to get manipulated or swayed by private equity, by venture capital, and then eventually we'll have this whole conglomerate that you control to help the little guy.
Yeah, like for
it's
example,
a bad breakdown,
it's
but
just dumb. Like for example, there's companies that don't offer ACH. The reason is because it's so much more profitable to have it go through credit card processing. So we charge exactly what we get charged from card processing. We hand right to our customers. There's no tack on extra. The ACH fee, the credit card processing, we just tack it. We go directly. What we get charged, we give it to the customer. That's not true for these other companies. And ultimately, the reason for that is because, like, if I got $1 billion tomorrow, what am I going to change in my life? Not much. I'm literally just going to build more things. Yeah. I'm not going to move out of this tiny little apartment. There's not. Like, so me making more money isn't going to, like, help me a whole lot, like, change my life at all. What will change my life is getting more people to Landscape Summit that, like, come up and tell me, like, how much it helped their business and save their marriage and all that sort of thing. So I just am not interested in extrapolating an extra penny here and $2 here and things like that. And obviously you got to pay money. You got to pay the developers, and we invest a lot into the development and R&D, but I'm just like, I don't need the money. Like, so it's hard to beat someone who doesn't have much to lose. And I just don't. Like, if there's money coming in and we can use that money to help the business owners, we're going to do it. And fortunately I found a co-founder that's on board with that. He's another thing, Lawn Pro, that gives him plenty of cash. He doesn't need the cash right now. And so we can just plow money back in and make it the best product that no one else can compete with.
So Landscape Summit 2022, we launched P4P software.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
Right.
Yes.
Landscape Summit 2023 Part A.
I think we'll be on
next year.
I think so. I don't know if we'll be able to do it by October. Probably not October. No.
Yeah.
Probably 2024 though. I have a feeling the announcement will.
Yeah.
But see, now it's not going to be an announcement because you had the stupid thing on video.
Well, no. We don't, I mean, I can edit this out. Here's what I'll try to do. My editing skills are extremely poor. Well, our sub count, come on, guys.
The only people that will know is the people that have subscribed to this channel.
Yeah. They'll be on the end. Or what I was thinking is my editing is horrible, but I could try to just add a bleep when you say, I think next year it's going to be a, then just bleep it out. They
would figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah. So I don't know.
The level of sophistication of your viewers is hopefully higher than that.
Hopefully. Like and subscribe. I never say that because, I just I'm not that guy. Pivoting a little bit, still talking about Co-Pilot because it's just a big deal. People want to hear kind of the ins and outs. But you mentioned AI.
I knew you were going to go there.
I know, but it's so good. It's so exciting. It's if you've been living under a rock, dude, AI is like, everyone's talking about it. Graham Stephan's talking about it. Alex Hormozzi's talking about it. Me, Kevin's talking about it. Like, everyone has recent videos about AI because of ChatGPT, because of DALL-E and OpenAI. And the founder has been more public with, like, what do you call them? Like, what do they call it when you sit down on a stage and talk?
Keynotes,
panels. He's been doing a lot of panels. Was it Sam something?
Yep.
No. Yeah, right?
Not Sam Bankman-Fried.
No, sorry. OpenAI.
I forget his name.
Yeah,
It's a strange name.
Yeah, but he's been doing more panels and it's more public. So you mentioned AI. Let's talk small picture. Co-Pilot. How are you going to use artificial intelligence to accelerate Co-Pilot and where you want to go with it?
I won't talk about the end part, but like the beginning, like what I see in the beginning, because like the reason because the end part, the technology is actually not there, but I think it'll be there within a year or two. But right now, it'll be scrubbing the data to basically tell you what you should do in your business based upon the numbers and without emotion, right? And so the same way that when franchisees give us their numbers and then I ask you, like, if you say, hey, so-and-so is doing wrong, and like the first thing you're doing is you're giving me like 2 or 3 key points. Those are the 2 or 3 key points that every owner can just have in their software telling them what they should be doing based upon certain metrics. You don't need a coach. And it can be every day. It can be live. And so right now it's a matter of telling the business owner what they should do without emotion. Based upon the numbers, based upon the data, based upon the trajectory of where their business is going, here's what you should be doing. That's like stage 1. Stage 2 is how to optimize customer service based upon the metrics and the data. So now this is a matter of communicating, right? So like I think it's like metrics, communication. That's the evolution I see, right? How do you get it to when someone calls in the phone? They say, "Do you want to talk to an operator, or do you want to know when your next service is?" They click one button. Your next service is October 13th, based upon the fact that it goes into your CRM, finds out what it is. They can pay their balance over the phone using an assistant that sounds just like a person, and only very high level things get transferred to an operator. That's a ways away, I think.
Yeah.
But that's where it's going. I think right now, though, it's a matter of decision-making frameworks that the business owner currently is having fogged because they have emotion around the business.
Yeah. And I think the napkin idea that you said, basically, if you had all this information from a business, and maybe if you send me that picture, I can put it on the screen. But it was like, if you knew every single number in this business and tracked these specific metrics,
you don't have to be there.
You could make every single decision without seeing the business physically, without being there, without managing the employees. Still hinges on an in-person GM at this point, right? But all those metrics show you every single spot you need to hit and where you need to go.
Yeah, and like the what we call 3D notifications, data-driven decisions. Those are curated by myself. I literally create those every night. I'm trying to look at them right now, just try to spend time on them. And that's just going through, okay, what are the metrics? What are the convergence of different data points that would pump out this specific recommendation, right? Like, okay, if your close ratio is declining at the same time that I see this happening in your schedule, okay, this is what I would be telling you. And so this curation, and right now we probably have 50 to 80 of these decision-making frameworks. When that becomes 5,000, and it's like, you should not hire that person based upon the fact that I just heard them say X, Y, and Z words, and this parallels. Like, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I want the co-pilot to be the person that tells you, like, hey, this is just my 2 cents, human. I just think this.
Yeah.
Based upon the numbers and my objective reasoning and data analytics, I believe you should do this.
Yeah.
And they're not going to control your business. I don't think that's like, we're a long ways from computers running entire businesses and organizations, but it'll be the sidekick that you need to be able to make unemotional business decisions
in the short term and I guess the long term. But I guess now I want to zoom out to like the greater picture that is AI and how it's going to impact businesses. Because what you said there is very interesting, because if everything was just a percentile, then like there's no room for creativity. AI is limited by its input. Right. So are you saying AI Co-Pilot is going to listen to every single conversation
down the road?
Right.
Down the road, the goal would be that it would track all conversations between like your reps and everything. It would track everything with the guys working. So it would know at all times like who's lower performer, not just based on the numbers of clocking it up, like who's walking slower today, who has a limp today, things like that. It's going to happen. It's just a ways away. And definitely the listening in on is extremely important. Things like interviews, from you to say, hey, like your tonality, you should have asked this question here, right? From a sales perspective, like, hey, this should have, like that's probably 5 to 10 years away. And I think with AI, everyone's getting very excited about right now, Chat GPT. Before it actually does a lot of these things, we're still talking 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
definitely. Same way with robots, all the rest of it. In my opinion, though, whoever nails AI is going to be the company that can figure out the software behind robotics. And robotics will be the hardware to the software of AI, in my opinion. So you need the back end AI to run the software, the brains of the robots. Because the robot, everyone's like, oh, well, robots aren't creative. They aren't. Well, what happens when we create back-end code and software to the AI is the brains behind the brawn of a robot that can work all the time, runs on electricity, doesn't complain, doesn't have any emotions, and also works that way, right? So I think what we're doing right now is we're focusing on the white-collar aspect of AI when the blue-collar brute physical work of robotics is still a ways away. But when you bring those two things together, that's when you have a company that will just completely crush in home services.
Yeah. Do you think, now this is just a off the wall idea, but like, could you, Mike Andy, start a business and then just have AI run it?
Yeah, 100%.
Like an in-person home service business.
Yep. You just have to do the framework of your incentives correctly for your employees so they are not reliant on an in-person human being. But you could absolutely have a dashboard that everyone shares based on like the KPI cockpit I showed everyone at conference. That would be right now synthesized through a human being, and then they take certain actions. There's no reason for the human being to synthesize. If there's certain parameters of what needs to be done, that program can give computational notifications to, okay, this employee, you being inefficient. Here's your warning. Within 1 week, if this number does not come here, you will be let go. You will no longer have access to the program. And so it would be very much like that, 100%. And computers will run all the brains, so there's no reason for to have an owner involved in daily operations. They'll be simply risking capital.
Now, let me take devil's advocate here. And I'm not going to get the facts perfectly straight, but I can get the basic facts of the story will prove my point. Remember when Boeing launched the 737 Maxes, right? And 2 of them crashed, and it was because they had a sensor that was bugged, and it was basically saying your trim is wrong, and the pilots just listened to the system, and they both crashed, right? The black box reports both said that it crashed due to a sensor fail, but then the pilot's not reacting. So what would be, I guess, your defense for that if you just have a humanoid robot or a iPad just telling your employees what to do? Like, what's the defense for that?
The flaw in that is that it got forward on the hardware side, right? So the software side, in my opinion, is going to get ahead. AI is going to go faster than robotics, right? And that's why I don't think this is actually going to affect any of us for 20 to 30 years. Like, I don't think, like what I just said with like someone, you don't need a human being as an owner. That's 30 years away.
Right.
But whoever gets there wins the game. And so, in my opinion, like my objection to that one would be, no one's life is at risk if my KPI is off by 10%. It's a matter of pushing a button and saying, I think this is incorrect, and then someone reviewing that and changing it. The only reason the 737 MAX is such a big deal is because people died over it.
Right.
It only happened a few times. There's only a few errors. Well, when that happens in software, you correct it, you fix it, and you move on. Right? The problem in that scenario was that it was hardware. There's real lives at risk here. With software and the AI and the brains, there's just less computational error and risk because of computational error. And so, I just, when this is the thing, one day someone will get fired because of an AI algorithm, and then they'll sue. Yeah. Right. And so that's when it's like, okay, well then correct it. Yeah, right. But no one died. Yeah. Right. But that'll absolutely happen. It already happens to this day. Like, let's just be honest. When they're firing 10,000 people at these companies, what do you think they're using to figure out who's going to get canceled?
Data analytics.
100%. It's already happening. Just the human beings are the ones that say you're fired. Yeah. What'll eventually happen is they'll get an email that'll say, you have been locked out of your account, you've been let go, and it'll simply be because they bottom out a certain threshold. They were warned so many times, and they were immediately handed off. Yeah. Like, we already run through systems. We have performance improvement plans. We have warnings. We have step into my offices. That will all just be automated based upon the numbers because we're already using the numbers. It's just, you don't need a human being to tell you're fired. Yeah.
I think a simple example is like just the Western court of law, right? It's like strike one, strike two. Like, we already have a system. Now it's just eliminating maybe a law enforcement officer, maybe eliminating a trial jury. But then that gets scary because it's like, well, human rights, AI making decisions on that stuff.
Yeah, but it's already happening. Like, that's why like, the ticketing process, when you go through a red light, it's already AI. Takes a picture, sends you a ticket. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, those are great.
Which I disagree. My dad and I have both gotten them on a free write on red. You stop at the line and then you get your free ride on red.
Yeah, but then you just object to it. It's the manual review, and the system gets better. That's why A is great, is because it learns.
That's fair,
right? So then someone's like, okay, great. Every time we keep getting these false negatives, we need to make sure that if they go here and they turn it goes at this different angle. We cut the ticket. We stop error. Right? That's just no one died in that situation. You submitted an error bug, and then we move on.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the problem is where people will hate AI is when people get a little too far ahead and they start putting it into situations where people could die and people get hurt.
Yep.
That's when it's going to get too far ahead. And that's when people will be like, oh, AI is horrible and has no life. It will help us so much when business owners don't have to spend 3 hours in the evening worrying about their numbers, but rather they'll be focused on like taking all their team to Topgolf. That's more important that you as a human being do that, because an AI machine can't. But AI can take care of the numbers and figure out your spreadsheets and submit payroll and all these other things. And so everyone that's like crying, it's going to be so bad, we're not going to have any job. It's like, no, you'll have time to do the things that you need to be doing as a human being that AI can never do. And it have emotion, that is have a feeling connection, have friendship bonds that go beyond that of a code.
Yeah. I saw one thing that was kind of a mindset shift for me was I saw the CEO of OpenAI on an interview, and he said, people are worried about AI and how powerful it can be, and it could hurt humans or it could kill humans. And he said, it's already happening with self-driving cars. And it totally like flipped a switch in my brain. I think for a lot of people, we think of, when we hear AI and robots and humanoids, we think of a robot that looks and talks like a human. But we already are using AI and robotics in self-driving cars, and they have killed people. And it totally made me rethink how AI will help our future, right? Because AI cars, I think overall are a good thing once the data is there, right? Once they have the 3D decision-making processes. But it was just like, oh, that's AI. I think it just brings it to a level that's more understandable, right? Because people think of AI as, Steven Spielberg movies and sci-fi movies. And it's like, no, it's here, it's now, we're already using it.
Well, it's like with airplanes, back to your point about the 737 MAX, everyone's like, oh, I'm not going to fly. It's like,
Right.
Look, flying is still 10 times safer than jumping in your car every day. The thing that you lack is control.
Yeah.
And so the reason we're afraid of AI is because we lack the control. And so when that gets fixed and we start to feel like we can control it, we have the ability to edit and modify the way it thinks, that's when it'll take more root in our society.
Yeah. Now, do you think that there will be a utopian era where humans and AI coexist?
It'll be the best AI or technology in general does not feel like it gets in the way of us living as human beings. Like we did not like deliberate over whether or not we should have these headphones on or deliberate about these microphones, but they're like breakthroughs in technology 50 years ago. Right. And so in my opinion, the AI that will be successful and actually take root and then grow with us as humans, the best will be the thing that just simply facilitates what we're currently doing and takes away the things that we are not good at, which is computational, memorization, doing repetitive tasks, coming up with ideas. Like there's no reason to have to brainstorm. Like that doesn't need to happen. Like a computer can brainstorm way better than us. So like just let the computer do that. Do what the computer can't do. And so I don't really believe people are gonna have like robots and they're gonna want to like love them, have sex with them and stuff like that. I don't think that's true. Because I just think that there's just a certain element of spirit and soul that can't be duplicated by a robot or machine or AI. But yeah,
I don't know. I guess I don't
think there'll be a utopian thing though.
Yeah. I think it was a little bit of a false premise to the question because, I was the person who presented the question, and my thought process is possibly like ultimate demise with AI. So I'm saying, like, do you think there will be a utopia?
No, we'll humans will self collapse before AI takes over.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
We'll hate each other so much. If we have AI powerful enough to even think about that, we will have wars. Like we will have the capability to blow this whole world up like 10 times over. And we already do. But if the technology for AI gets to that point where like robots are here and like that's like a real thing, trust me, we will blow each other up before that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I would say, I know you're not a movie guy, so you're not going to take the time to watch it, but an interesting take on this was Her. It's a movie that is Joaquin Phoenix, and basically it's a utopian future, and his Siri is like basically like an AirPod, and everybody just wears their Siri, but their Siri is customized to them and their needs and their wants, and it is weird.
That'll happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, AI.
Cool.
Right on, man.
That it for today?
It's a good pod.
That's the pod.
Like and subscribe.
It's a wrap. Thanks, guys.